This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno. Welcome to We Are Change Fresno with your hosts, Stuart Webb and Sam Cheney, fighting the international bankers' one-world government scientific dictatorship. Be the change you want to see in the world. And now, here's your hosts.
Welcome to We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Radical Sam, as some may know him as. This is our week. What week? What are you, 26?
Yeah.
Week 26.
Week number 26
of the We Are Change Fresno radio broadcast. Folks, we got a special guest this first hour in studio, Gene Johnson. Why don't you say hello, Gene?
Hello, everyone.
First time on radio, Gene?
First time.
First time.
Wow. Let's break them in.
We're going to get into his story about mortgage fraud and what's been going on with that in his life. And we're also going to be going over some news in the second hour. A lot going on there.
Don't tell me about mortgage fraud, man. I want to buy a house, man.
Well, for all those who are listening to this broadcast, listen up. This is important info. But Sam, I'm going to hand this interview off to you.
Hello, friends. I don't know if it's radical to actually care about something, but I do care about this country and the people in it and the people that are victims of mortgage fraud, which is every homeowner in this country. And we've already done a show on Fresno CMAC, the television show about this, and this is such a big story, it cannot be understated. And so that's why we're very lucky to have Gene Johnson here, a true patriotic American that's actually done his homework and is educating lawyers out there about this mortgage fraud, is how absurd it is. A concerned citizen has to do the legwork and the scholarship behind studying this issue to actually inform the public to what's really going on with the crimes against our whole economy, against every American citizen. And so we appreciate having you on here, Gene, and appreciate you on the television show. And we're going to continue to push this issue because this is one of the biggest issues in America affecting the American economy. And it's never been remedied since the 2008 financial collapse. And regardless of all the cooked numbers that the mainstream media and the government want to tell us, we are in a depression in this country, folks. And a key part of that is this mortgage fraud. So, Gene, you want to get into it a little bit? Give us a little bit of background about who you are so our audience can understand who you are and where you're coming from.
Okay. Well, I came from Dinuba. Okay. I grew up in Dinuba. Graduated in 1956, joined the Army National Guard in Reedley, went to Reedley College. Then I transferred over to the United States Air Force, was discharged in 1960 from the Air Force at Castle Air Force Base up in Merced. And then I went to work for United Airlines and spent 26 years with United Airlines as a customer service supervisor at different locations around the country. When I retired from United Airlines in 1988, I built my own home up in Corscold, California, and put some innovative, sustainable project together to make it as self-sufficient as I possibly could. And then I went to work for the water utility up there and eventually became the manager for the water utility. And I retired from that in 1997. Then in 2001, one of my daughter's old boyfriends from high school called her and said that he needed some help. And he is a fellow that owns a private water utility here in Fresno, the only private water utility in the city of Fresno. And a lot of people don't understand or realize that Fresno is the 5th largest city in the whole state of California. Anyway, this private water utility has been in business since 1948. People don't even know about it hardly, but we serve the Sunnyside area of Fresno, and we want to become a sustainable community by producing our own power, using water and solar, and converting the water to hydrogen. And that's the other thing that I got involved with when I went to work for Tim Bakeman. He allowed me to get involved with the California Hydrogen Business Council, which is the largest group of alternative energy and alternative fuel companies in the country. And I eventually became a board member of that group of companies. In 2003, I don't know if you remember this or not, but August the 14th of 2003, the day after that, on the 15th, I was asked by Governor Gray Davis's people to make a presentation to a group, a forum, energy forum that he put together because of the contract that he had signed with Enron, if you know who Enron was, and our energy rates went sky high. Well, he called in people from all over the country to help him solve that problem. So I was invited to make a presentation based on what I was trying to do here in the Central Valley. Well, that was August the 15th of 2003, and the day before that, August the 14th of 2003, I don't know if you heard about the other day in Detroit, the power went out, right? Well,
Yep.
in August the 14th of 2003, 55 million people were out of power in the Northeast. The big blackout, they called it.
Uh-huh.
People were trapped on in elevators for 3 days.
Wow.
But anyway, the grid is so vulnerable, and that's what I've been
trying
to show what needs to be done. And hydrogen, to me, is the answer to getting the OPEC monkey off of our back. Because if we didn't send all the money to OPEC and the countries who hate us, and we produce our own power, we would be much, much better off.
Well,
Anyway,
well, Gene, that's against the one world government agenda, but
Yep.
but we'll have to have you on to really get in depth about the whole hydrogen issue.
well, Woody just mentioned a while ago that he wanted to buy a house, right?
Yeah, our producer Woody's looking to buy a house.
Yeah, well, and Woody, I want to tell you that you're buying a pig in a poke.
Okay. So I'm better off living in
Be
my
aware, Woody. Be very
So
aware.
I'm better off living in my studio apartment, right?
At this point in time, yes.
Okay. That's all I need to know. You don't have to tell me nothing else. So I'm safe where I'm at right now. Thank you. Yeah.
And
Peace out to Blackstone Acres. Yes.
Blackstone Acres. If you will remember, on the 15th of November, there was a big headline, front page article in the Fresno Bee, and it had a collage of 100 homes. And the headline was, Campaign to Address Abandoned, Blighted Properties in Fresno Reaches 100-Day Mark. And it shows 100 homes that are boarded up and the weeds growing up and everything else. And there's a group of people, there's a professor at Fresno State College that has gotten 300 of her students to go around the city and to document and make this collage and verify all of these, what I call zombie homes, if you've heard of that term. These zombie homes are homes that have been abandoned by the homeowner and by the banks. And the reason they is that the homeowner was evicted from that home and thrown out onto the street, but the bank did not take possession of that property with a deed. So the homeowner who was evicted doesn't know that they still own that property, plus the fact that the property taxes are not being paid.
Yeah.
And that's what the cities rely on for their revenue to keep the cities going. That's why Stockton has gone bankrupt. That's why
because no one lives there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no population to
No
pay
one's
the property.
paying property tax.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that those homes are boarded up, the weeds are growing up, and it ruins the property values next door.
No one's going to buy it. Yeah.
The thing is that the reason this is happening is because the banks don't want to pay the property taxes.
Yeah.
All they want to do is throw the people out.
Yeah, so that they might use it if they want to, and they just want to do it by fiat, basically.
Right.
It's kind of ours. We're not going to pay. We don't have the deed, but we're just going to have it available if we want to tear it down, if we see it as an investment later, basically.
Exactly. Well, and Woody, I want to read to you one of the things that is happening that is new, basically, to the mortgage fraud situation.
Okay.
The notice of a trustee's sale is one of the last things that the banks record against a person's property. Is letting them know that they are in default and there's a certain date that they're going to sell it at auction. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the legislators passed a bill a year or so ago, and I was just made aware of this a week ago. And I would like to just read part of it. It says, "Notice to potential bidders. If you are considering bidding on this property lien, you should understand that there are risks involved in bidding at trustee auction. You will be bidding on a lien, not on the property itself. Placing the highest bid at a trustee auction does not automatically entitle you to free and clear ownership of the property. You should also be aware that the lien being auctioned off may be a junior lien. If you are the highest bidder at the auction, you are or may be responsible for paying off all liens senior to the lien being auctioned off before you can receive clear title to the property. You are encouraged to investigate the existence, priority, and size of outstanding liens that may exist on this property by contacting the county recorder's office or a title insurance company, either of which may charge you a fee for this information. If you consult either of these resources, you should be aware that the same lender may hold more than one mortgage or deed of trust on the property." Now, that is a big admission by the banks that they have ruined our chain of title on every mortgage that has MERS, especially MERS on it, because there are 70 million mortgages in this country that have MERS on them, and people don't know what and who MERS is. But MERS stands for Mortgage Electronic Registration System. In 1995, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all the big banks put MERS together to hide the real person who loaned you the money by being able to sell that mortgage many, many times on the stock market with mortgage-backed securities, by securitizing that loan and selling it to many, many investors, like pension funds. Like that's why Detroit, their pension fund is shot because of all of this. So what I'm saying is you have to be made aware that on your deed of trust, if it has MERS on it, you've got a major, major problem. As an example, a lot of these loans were done by Countrywide. Countrywide went out of business, but they're still using Countrywide as the lender. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
It's clear who it is. The lender is Countrywide, right?
Yeah, right. the Countrywide and J.P. Morgan Chase, all of them have created this Ponzi scheme that is beyond the pale, and the average person doesn't realize that they've been scammed. All of us have been scammed. So that's what.
So the original lender is no longer. Now, when you buy a house, you're most likely not going to know who the real lender is. So it's unclear who really owns the house.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
And that's why there's a lot of things going on regarding the mortgage fraud. As an example, a year ago, the 19th of last month, Eric Holder settled a lawsuit with 5 of the major banks for $13 billion, right?
We remember that.
Okay.
We covered that.
That was to help pay off the investors that were scammed and also to restitution for homeowners.
Yeah.
They never got it. The same thing with the big bank bailout back in 2008 when they crashed, right?
Yeah.
We bailed them out with our money.
Yeah, exactly.
Taxpayer money.
And we still lost the house.
We
still
lost the house.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Saved the banks that screwed us, and then they got bailed out. We lost our houses.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the problem: is the average person doesn't realize and know what to do when they get an eviction notice or the notice of default. Because first of all, they can't hire an attorney because it costs factor. If they can't make their payments, they can't pay an attorney. Back when I started mine, they didn't know anything about this whole Ponzi scheme, and still a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
Even the judges. As an example, I have here a list of all the judges in Fresno County. 41 of them.
Yeah.
26 of them have MERS on their mortgage, and they don't
wow.
even know it. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, educating them is a key in what I'm trying to do, because
to rule in favor of homeowners, people that are
Exactly.
getting evicted unjustly. And
because if they don't understand who MERS is,
Yeah.
how in the world can they believe the banks by the banks telling them all these lies and all these fraudulent forged documents that they're recording at the courthouse to steal people's homes?
Yeah.
If the judges don't understand it,
Yeah.
and
They're supposed to be the ones that actually are the ones that rule on
Right,
these
exactly.
cases. So they have to understand it. And if they don't, that's a big problem, right?
Right.
Especially if they are under this as well. And they should probably know that, right?
Yeah, right.
and then rule in favor of people who have been wronged.
Well, as we continually to go over on the show, the majority of America is financially and economically illiterate. And it goes even one step further. With Gene was talking about these mortgage-backed securities, they were sold to institutional investors rated by the rating agencies as A+, when they all knew behind the scenes in their banker meetings that it was toxic debt, that was garbage. And so they bet against these mortgages failing. They knew it. Goldman Sachs, for instance, they knew it coming and going. They're playing us as suckers, coming and going, and our government is colluding with these big banks.
And then Eric Holder will say, "Well, you got to pay a fine," even though they really people need to go to
Well,
jail.
Eric Holder said they're too big to fail and they're too big to jail. That's a direct quote from
What,
Eric.
he thought he's a
Holder.
rapper now or what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Aye.
It really is unbelievable. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to laugh to keep from crying, but it's out of this world. The corruption is right there in our face. And so, Gene, you want to go on?
Well, to give you a prime example of Mr. Holder, all right?
The people's attorney, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Civil servant. Totally.
Yeah, really. Looking out for us, right?
Yeah, he's the holder to your future.
There we go.
In jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, back in 2010, there was an attorney out of Florida. Her name is Lynn Simoniak. She got in trouble with her mortgage, and so she went down to the recorder's office and started checking her recorded documents, and came across a person's name that was signing and being notarized by another person, the name Linda Green. Okay, and she's Linda Green. So then she got another document and found out Linda Green again, but it was a different signature.
Yeah.
But it was the same name and for the same bank. And anyway, she went through a number of her documents and found that, and then she started looking at other people's documents, and this Linda Green kept coming up. So eventually what happened is 60 Minutes, I'm sure you're aware of 60 Minutes.
Yep.
Scott Pelley did an interview of her on 60 Minutes and brought forward all of this, what they call them, robo-signers, okay? And they found...
Yeah, electronic signatures.
Yeah, well, not electronic. They're all done by hand by these robo-signers in a room signing hundreds or thousands of them a day.
I didn't know
It's
that.
not.
Wow.
It's not their signature, right? It's just a guy signing Linda Green's signature.
Right. And that's what happened. They interviewed, found 3 people that were the actual Linda Greens, right? And one of them was a guy. And Scott Pelley interviewed him and says, well, you're Linda Green signing for these banks, and you're doing $600,000-700,000 a day, and you're signing as a vice president of these banks. And he says yes, and he says, well, how much do you make as a vice president of a bank? And he says, well, I'm embarrassed to say. He says, $10 an hour.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway, from that, okay,
Rape in the first degree. Wow.
so from that, she filed or put together a lawsuit on her own mortgage, and it just so happened she became a whistleblower because of the fraud involved money that the banks had to pay for a lot of these wrongful foreclosures. Okay, well, Eric Holder became her attorney.
Really?
The people's attorney.
There we go.
Okay, and she was what they call a relator. In other words, the whistleblower, providing all the evidence for the Department of Justice to file against J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, HSB, and
Wells Fargo.
Yeah, Wells Fargo. You got it. That's the other one. 5 of them. Anyway, it took a couple of years to go through the process. But the banks finally decided they didn't want to fight it anymore, so they settled out of court because they didn't want it published.
Yeah.
They settled for $95 million, and Lynn Simoniak, as a whistleblower, her reward was $18 million.
Wow.
Okay, now,
wow.
it took 2
Yeah, she became an
years.
insomniac. God.
Rappers, man. We were just rapping. today.
Híjole.
Anyway, it took 2 years for that to finally become published last year.
Wow.
The funny part of it is it was published about the same time that a famous case right here in Fresno called Glaske versus Bank of America.
Yeah.
It's all about securitization and the filing of assignments on a person's mortgage after the date of the closing of that trust. Those trusts have, let's say, 5,000 mortgages in them. There's this closing date. Once that closing date is, they can't put any more of those mortgages into that pool.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is, to get around that, they're assigning those mortgages to that trust years after and putting it into the county recorder's office to prove that they own the mortgage.
Yeah.
And they don't. And that's what the Glaske case is all about.
After the fact, right?
Yeah.
And then this whole thing speaks to the moral hazard of the situation which they've institutionalized, and this in financial terms means they are separating their gains from the consequences of taking risky bets, which are the derivatives, the package of mortgage-backed securities, all fraudulent. And so they privatize the gains. The bankers' executives get giant $1 million bonuses, and then they socialize the losses so the taxpayer
Get the bell out.
is on the hook for paying their losses off on their risky bets, which they knew ahead of time, and they're betting both sides of the game.
Lynn Simoniak then turned around and filed another lawsuit against every one of the banks and every one of the servicers. Okay, and the reason is, this time, though, Eric Holder bailed out. He didn't want to get involved because I think the banks told him, hey, you can't do this to us.
Yeah.
We're too big to big to fail and too big to jail.
Yeah,
So-
that's what the bailout was, you know.
Right. So I don't know where
$1 trillion or
I don't
whatever.
know how that case is going. It's been quiet, but I'm sure based on the same evidence that she presented to the first $95 million lawsuit,
Yeah.
I think, and I tell people that it's a 140-page document. It ought to be used as a blueprint for
Yeah.
every person who has MERS on their mortgage,
Yeah.
and using that as a blueprint and just put in the players based on their own mortgage and the recorded documents at the courthouse, so that that template
Yeah.
is just fill
Used
in
for their
the-
for their protection in the future, correct?
Exactly.
So where can you find that? Where is that? Is that you said 140 pages?
Yes. Well, it's Department of Justice versus those 5 banks. I can get that.
So if someone
information for you.
searches that on the internet, they can find that document
Yes.
in a PDF
Oh,
form and download
Yeah,
it.
it's
And
amazing.
they should if they own a home.
It's amazing what the internet can do, but the average person again doesn't.
They don't know how to
have any
navigate.
They have no
Yeah.
idea.
They don't even know what inflation is, Gene.
They can't. We college students have no idea what it is. We asked them, and we recorded it, and they did not know. An increase in the money supply, folks. That's all it is. It's very simple. So I got one question for you about this
Sure.
MERS thing. So when someone buys a house, let's say I buy a house from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that the loan that I have through you, it gets sold to a group of loans, and then that gets sold to someone else. And so what is it? Just it gets lost, or how does that actually happen? I mean, how are people not? How is there not a paper trail for? You know what I'm saying? How are we?
Well, there is a paper trail based on the fact that the banks have recorded the documents at the courthouse. But the problem is they're fraudulent. You see,
So
you have to challenge them.
And then they have to admit that they've
exactly.
Okay.
Now, there's another prime case here in California called Robinson versus PHH, I think it is. Anyway, it's called a quiet title, and they filed a quiet title against these banks, and none of them showed up.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they won the house free and clear
because
the
bank couldn't produce it, right? They couldn't produce the real document.
Exactly. But what happened is they failed because that was a MERS mortgage.
Yeah.
They failed to include MERS in their lawsuit in quiet title.
Oh.
When MERS found out about it, MERS filed a lawsuit against them. But you see, the problem with that is MERS doesn't loan any money, so they have no monetary value to stand up
to bankrupt them
They can't,
by suing.
They can't
have
stake
no
a
money.
claim on the property.
Yeah.
Well, and again, just like this thing I just read to you about beware of bidders that are bidding on auction homes. They won't get a free clear title to that property.
Yeah.
And our title. Chain of title is over 200 years old.
Yeah.
And we we rely on what is recorded on that piece of property from the day one. Okay. Yeah. And what the banks have done is screwed it all up, and nobody knows, is the old Abbott and Costello bit, who's on first. The banks don't know who's on first.
Yeah.
They have no idea who they're. And the
and then they're making fraudulent contracts. I mean, they're forging.
Yes.
You know, so they've just decided to do that instead of,
exactly.
They're forging bank presidents' signatures.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Plus the money. See, first of all, let's just talk about Countrywide. Okay, Countrywide and MERS. That's on your deed of trust. That's who you signed the loan with.
Yeah.
Countrywide went out of business in 2008 or so, whatever time it is. But they put in a servicer. That's who you send the money to, and the servicer sends the money to somebody, which we don't know who that is because MERS has kept that a secret. That's what the mortgage electronic registration system is all about.
Yeah.
They prevent the homeowner from knowing the real lender of your mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's convoluted. No one knows, and you don't know who you're loaning it from. So they can just forge it and hope that and people, like you said, that don't know how to get a lawyer, they don't know the process. The banks or MERS can just be like, oh well, this is our house now. You can't produce the deed, or your deed is, or if you don't show up and you just get kicked out and you don't understand the process, you lose your house, and they just have it. They just gain it fraudulently.
And they lay a guilt trip on the homeowners and say, well, you're a deadbeat debtor. You're a bad person because you didn't pay off your debts that you took out knowingly. And we got the mainstream media and the Justice Department propping all this up. And so people do feel bad, and they just wind up leaving their house because they're like, okay, I was wrong. I'll just have to leave then because I can't pay my debt. When in all reality, the banks are the ones that push this fraud on the American people in the beginning to profit from the derivatives coming and going. Goldman Sachs, #1 perpetrator of the derivatives fraud.
Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to talk more about this.
Do you love supporting local businesses? Do you want to help them succeed? So do we. The Thrifty Nickel One Ads is a family-owned business that has been a big part of the local community for over 30 years. Our goal is not only to produce a paper that is not only successful, but enduring. We are looking for experienced outside sales representatives to help grow and expand the Central Valley's favorite classified paper while creating successful marketing campaigns that will increase business for their clients. If you care about better working establishing relationships with local businesses, then we want to hear from you. 50% commission of every new contract acquired. If interested, contact Art at thriftynickelwanads.com or call 559-472-7182.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
We all know that a natural disaster, EMP attack, and martial law are a real possibility. Prepare before the crisis because FEMA can't and won't keep you safe. Tops Military Supply. Veterans serving veterans, their families, and the community. Visit us at 605 West Shaw, Suite A, Clovis, California, or call us at 559-298-6001.
Screwed up.
Folks, we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Chaney. We got Woody in the studio.
Hey!
And we got Gene Johnson, our guest, here in studio talking about mortgage fraud and what he's doing to combat that here in Fresno. And we were just going over in the first part of the hour, we were talking about how basically people's loans are getting sold to MERS, right? Correct? And then they can't produce the deed, and they force people out of their homes, saying that they're defaulting on their loans, but really they can't produce the real document that was originally, signed when the loan was created. When you actually bought the home, I mean, they don't have that actual document, or at least they're forging the documents to say that they still own the home, but really they can't produce it. They can't produce it, correct?
Right. Plus the fact that you see the first thing they usually do is after the loan, they send you a letter saying the servicer is now who this
is who you have to pay. Right.
Nation Star,
that's who you're paying.
Nation Star or whoever. There's all kinds of companies that they do.
Yeah.
Aquan is another big.
Is the one that's actually has the money that you have to pay off because you're taking a loan from them.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a servicer.
Oh, a servicer.
All
okay.
they do is you send them the money of your monthly payment for your mortgage.
Yeah.
They then send it to the real person who is supposed to have loaned you the money.
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem is they won't tell you who that is.
They won't tell you who it is. So that okay. So how do you know who you're paying?
Exactly. So what happens is then they change the servicer again, and they've made it so complicated that
By design, right?
Exactly.
To confuse people.
So what happens is that if it is in a trust, if they just did assign it to a trust, that trust is in what they call a remec. Okay, that's so that they don't have to pay taxes on that trust. Okay, but if it's not in the trust, it goes to somebody else that you still don't know who that is. Okay, so that's what the problem is, trying to figure out and follow the money. You have to follow the money and force them to show you exactly where the money you've been sending them is going to the right person. And if it's not going to the right person and you pay off your loan down the road, and
is that what's happening when people are paying off their houses and then they're saying, oh, you don't own this house, you need to pay, et cetera on it, and you're like, well, I already paid that off, and then they say, no, we have no record of it. Is it something similar to that?
No, the real lender, who you don't know who that is, shows up at your door with a note that you signed years ago and say, hey, thanks for making all the payments on my home. And
wow.
So there's a lot of things you've got to understand about this Ponzi scheme.
Woody, you still want a home?
He ran out. He ran out. He really doesn't. He's
scared him off.
Wait. So what's happening is that the servicer or the person that you're paying off that you don't know who it is, they show up.
The debt note holder.
Quotes, whatever, in quotes. They're showing up at people's doorsteps saying, "Hey, thanks for making this payment on my house." How can they prove that it's do the people that own the home
if they have the blue ink signed loan documents? Now in California though, you don't have to produce that. Other states you have to. Some of them.
The original signature,
the original signature that verifies that you got a loan from somebody. But again, we don't know who that is.
So when you purchase a home, you don't get something to prove to combat if someone wants to say you've been paying off my home, and it's like, no, I've been living here, I'm paying off my home. You don't have evidence of paperwork saying, hey, I was paying off this house. This is
Well, you might have your checks, but again, you don't know when you send it to the servicer. You don't know who they sent it to. That's the problem.
They're the ones holding the debt note.
Oh, wow. So you're just paying someone, and you're hoping that your house is being paid.
Exactly.
But really, people are they're not following up, and they're not doing their homework. They're not getting the paperwork they need, obviously, to show that they're paying off their debt of the home.
The homeowner should send what they call a QWR, Qualified Written Request, to the servicer to have them give you an audit.
Of how much I've paid,
and
what property,
right?
And I am paying this off. Wait, so that needs to. So if you do that, then usually you'll be protected, right? But they're just preying on people's ignorance of not doing that.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's what they're doing. Plus, if they did have it in the trust, okay, the banks bought what they call a credit default swap insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person defaults, they get paid.
That's betting that you will default, which they planned the whole time up front.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You were exactly right, Sam.
They're just planning to fail already.
They have created this Ponzi scheme in so many different ways to
win coming and going. And we have to listen to Larry Summers out of Harvard tell us that this is the only way that we can operate in a service economy now. I mean, it's just disgusting.
And
he was in the Obama White House, first administration. It makes me want to pull my hair out, Gene. You know how fired up I get about this stuff because these people are just open criminals presenting themselves as academic authority experts on our financial system and economy, and we have to listen to what they say, and we see the fruits of what they've given us, which is total fraud, corruption, crime, and collapse.
The other thing about the trust, in the pooling and servicing agreement of the trust, if the homeowner doesn't make the payment, the servicer has to pay it. That's the agreement they have.
Yeah.
But the problem is, from the time that MERS and the original lender on your deed of trust, by the time it gets to the point where it's assigned, it's 2 or 3 years later after it's closed. So they're not in. So it's trying to figure out this who's on first situation that is a major problem. And again, the judges don't understand it. They believe whatever the attorneys for the banks tell them.
Of course.
And the documents that they provide, they don't analyze that document to verify the signatures, the dates, I mean, the whole 9 yards.
So the judges at this point are just taking the bank's word as gospel, and the bank's attorneys are so cowardly now. They won't even show up to court and look you in the eye. Isn't that correct, Gene?
That's right.
That's how cowardly these criminals are because they know they're wrong.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some of your, because you've been out there working, helping people, being a patriotic American, doing your civil duty, trying to help homeowners. And so you want to talk about some of your experiences in going through these foreclosure court cases?
Well, as an example, what Sam's talking about, 2 weeks ago, I was asked to be a witness in a unlawful detainer, which is a eviction notice.
Yeah.
These people borrowed $500,000 on a home back in 2005. The lady is 77. Her husband was 80 years old, and he fell and hit his head on the sidewalk and died. Okay, so she started struggling. And I looked at I got her all of her documents, and it was just unbelievable. And the funny part of it is that the $13 billion settlement that Eric Holder did with the 5 major banks about these trusts, it just so happened that her assignment of her mortgage was one of the documents that was used to show the banks of the fraud.
Yeah.
Okay? It was a Washington Mutual because J.P. Morgan Chase took over Washington Mutual. Washington Mutual and Countrywide never transferred any of the notes. That's there's all kinds of things on the internet about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she asked me if I would come to the court and be a witness and be able to show this fraud. Okay,
Yeah.
so I go and the judge swears me in, raise my hand,
Yeah.
and the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
And so the attorney for the bank, it just happened in San Joaquin County. It was up in San Joaquin County. They don't have like Fresno has. The attorneys in Fresno courts can call from anywhere in the United States and be on the phone rather than face to face with
Yeah,
you. Okay?
yeah.
But up here, up in San Joaquin, they don't have that. So
Yeah.
anyway, this attorney, the judge turns to the attorney and says, "Well, what do you have to say?" And he read off all the things that he had filed.
Yeah.
And the funny part of it is, he had 3 signatures on one document,
Yeah.
and they were all different for
Really?
the same attorney.
Wow.
Okay, so I was and I was going to present this information, right? So the attorney got through, and the judge turned to the homeowner and says, "Well, what do you have to say?" And she says, "Well, she turned to me because I couldn't sit up where they sit. I had to sit out where the audience was.
Yeah.
And even though I was sworn in,
Yeah,
right, as
yeah,
a witness.
yeah.
And the judge, she turned to me and she says, "Well, my friend Gene has the information on." And would like to speak. And so he turns to me and he says, "Are you an attorney?" And I says, "No, Your Honor, I'm just a farm boy from Dinuba."
There we go. Uh-huh.
Okay? And he says, "Sit down. You can't talk."
Wow.
After you're already sworn in
The
Wow.
to
judge-
give your testimony.
Then the judge
Wow.
turned to the attorney, says, "I rule in your favor. Do what you have to do."
Wait, so rule in her favor?
No.
Oh, in the attorney's in the
bank's
they were
favor.
in the bank's favor.
Wow.
Okay. So, what happened is we went back to the court
Uh-huh.
and wanted to appeal it. Well,
Uh-huh.
it just so happens that once the ruling comes down, it has to be the attorney has to file what they call a writ of possession,
Yeah.
so that writ of possession verifies that the judge has ordered the eviction.
Yeah.
So they take that writ of possession to sheriff. The sheriff goes to
and
the
evicts the
homeowners
homeowner.
and evicts them, right?
Yeah.
He's never done that.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I did get to say, I says, I'm not an attorney. And they said, well, she says, asks her, says, well, do you have an attorney? And she turned to me and says, yes, we have an attorney. And I says, Eric Holder is our attorney.
The people's attorney.
Because
Yeah.
of the case
Yeah.
of the $13 billion
Yeah.
was her case.
Yeah, and he was
still
the attorney general.
Exactly. So if you
Prosecuting,
if you can't use him
Yeah.
as our attorney
Yeah.
that we pay for,
yeah.
who can we? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. He's a
so-
public
so anyway,
servant.
that's so that's the kind of things that the judges are not listening
Yeah.
and allowing people to present their case in a
Yeah.
sense. Okay, due process. There's no due process.
Well, yeah, because and this happens all the time, folks. Is that you try to plead your own case with no attorney, they won't let you. Sometimes they'll just say, "Oh, you're not actually competent,"
Yeah.
even though in the Constitution
Yes.
you have the right to due process. Period. Fifth Amendment. Okay, go read the Constitution. All right, I'm sick of that. Oh, you're not an attorney. Attorneys can't even if you want to plead if you don't even want to plead anything. The attorneys are supposed to make deals. That's all they do. They're actually, I think, under the bar, certain rules of being an attorney don't require you.
To have any ethics? To have a heart?
Well, yeah, but also
They have a license to lie. They
Yeah.
don't have to tell the truth in the court.
They're professional liars.
and they can be disbarred if they're not doing
they tell the truth?
Yeah, and if they do what their client says, they can be disbarred for certain things.
We're not following procedure.
Not following. That's the word. It's not following procedure, and procedure. A lot of that is unconstitutional.
It's railroading
yeah,
you.
Yeah. So when I go to court, I probably won't ever have an attorney because I will just look at the Constitution. I'll be right in front of me, and someone's gonna have to prove me guilty of a crime.
Well, like Gene already said, he couldn't even find an attorney that was up on this whole mortgage fraud thing. He had to educate
So are you
his
now?
attorney.
So you're now the leading attorney, I guess.
Well, the funny part of it is I started out as pro per, okay, and about the fourth time I was in court, I decided that I was out of my league. So I hired an attorney. And he represented me 1 or 2 times, and then he didn't show up the third time, and the judge sanctioned him and sent him a letter saying you will be in court the next time, right? So and I taught him everything he knows about that, okay? And
should have billed him by the hour.
Yeah, well, so then he comes to court the next time and he has me sign a release. He doesn't want to be my. I felt that he probably got.
Overwhelmed?
Paid off? No. Paid off by the banks.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because I had enough evidence to show.
Oh,
okay?
wow.
Plus, through my whole situation, Lehman Brothers was supposed to be my holder because of the assignment to Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
Lehman Brothers was in bankruptcy the whole time I was in court.
So
I've been trying to get an attorney to verify for me whether or not they could actually foreclose on me. But anyway, I have had 6 judges in my case. 6.
Wow.
2 attorneys. The second one that I hired, he came to court. He filed a default for me. Okay. And then the next time he didn't show up, and the judge says, "Well, who's your attorney?" And I said, "Well, he was here last time, Your Honor." And he says, "Well, let me." And she had the debate of check the computer. She says, "Well, you don't have an attorney." And I says, "What are you talking about?" I says, "He was here last time." And she says, "Well, he didn't file a." So I can't think of the name of it, but he so he flaked out.
There's a bunch of procedure. It's a bunch of bull. He can't just come and represent you. I'm sorry. That's unbelievable.
Might as well put down Bozo the Clown as your attorney.
Yeah, right. But I mean, no, that's a certain procedure, so things won't get done. And do you think now? Why is your case specifically what? So you're going through this process right now. You've been through.
No, it's all over. They stole my home. So 2 of them.
Wow.
That's why Gene has to fight so hard to help other people because he knows the screw job that the system did on him.
Yes.
And we have video of it. Let's get back real quick into this big dog and pony show that the federal government put on.
So
Gene,
explain real quick for our audience what exactly happened real quick, if you could just say it to you.
Again.
And then go to.
What is it, 2010 when they had the mortgage fraud summit here at the Fresno Federal Building?
Yes. Okay, well... Well, Woody wanted some levity done in this program, so I mentioned to him about Dinuba. If you guys ever,
what about Dinuba?
Well, okay, I'm sure that if you've grown up here in the San Joaquin Valley, you went to school and the history of the San Joaquin Valley. I'm sure you know of a guy called Joaquin Murrieta.
Okay.
He was a Mexican bandito.
I thought it was a Mexican hitchhiker, Joaquin. You know, Joaquin.
Well,
Joaquin.
He was a Robin Hood of the Central Valley years and years ago, and his head is in a jar over in Cantua Creek on I-5. Okay. Well, also in Fresno County alone, there are 5 major Indian tribes. I didn't know if you knew that there were 5.
Okay.
Anyway. It just so happened that Joaquin Murrieta and an Indian from the Mono Indian tribe had a duel in Dinuba. Yeah. Just like if you saw the movie High Noon, the shootout of High Noon, okay? They had the shootout in Main Street. And this Indian's name was Nuba. Yeah. Okay? And they shot each other. And
there you go. It's Dinuba.
And Joaquin winged the Indian and went up to the Indian, and the Indian says, "I can't go back to my tribe and show face." And he says, "So you've got to shoot me." He says, "Okay, Dinuba."
Dinuba. And that's how.
So that's how Dinuba was born. Blink and you'll miss it.
Yep.
Well, Sam wants me to tell you about the mortgage fraud task force that President Obama brought to Fresno, one of 5 major cities in the United States that they went to. Started out in Miami, New York, Chicago, Fresno, Los Angeles. When they came to Fresno, it was a 2-day event. Yeah. And one of my closest friends that I went to high school and grammar school with and we played on the same high school Valley Championship basketball team together. He is the former chief of anti-terrorism for the FBI. He put a whole bunch of Puerto Rican bombers on the East Coast back in the 70s in jail, in prison.
Yeah.
Okay. I called him because I had filed a claim with the FBI about my case.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never heard a thing from him.
Of course.
So I called Ben. I said, Ben, this is what's happening tomorrow. I want to go back to the FBI and tell them, see, I told you so. Here's the evidence on all this stuff. And he says, Gene, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that because the FBI only takes cases if they are investigated before they bring it to the FBI from either the district attorney, local, sheriff's department, or the police department. If you don't do that, they're
not going to take it.
And they're all ignorant to the fact of this mortgage fraud at this point as well.
Right. So I go to the meeting in the new federal building on the 29th of September of 2010. And there are people from the Department of Justice, the FBI, HUD, and the Department of Commerce from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
The first session, they had local attorneys and real estate people and up on the podium.
All the racketeers.
And on the side, they had Tony West, who is the third guy below Eric Holder.
Yeah.
He is the brother-in-law of Kamala Harris,
That's
our Attorney General.
Coincidentally.
Coincidentally. I can't remember. I've got the list of the other people. But the first session was put on by the FBI agent from the Department of Justice.
Oh, boy.
And it lasted for about a hour and a half. And so after it was over, the FBI agent turned to the audience and says, is there anybody in the audience that would like to say something? And I raised my hand, and she's, come on up here to the podium. I go up to the podium. I did my thing about 15 minutes. But I ended up by saying, I've been screwed by my bank, and now I'm being screwed by my government.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Turned around and went and sat down. Well, Tony West turned to me, and he says, Mr. Johnson, we're here to hear stories just like yours because we know that the central San Joaquin Valley is the epicenter of mortgage fraud.
Wow.
Okay? Then the other three guys said something to me, and anyway, so then they decided to take a break. So we start going out into the hallway, and I get tapped on my shoulder by Gene Hagenson of Channel 30.
Yeah.
And he says, Mr. Johnson, I've got a video camera set up out in the hallway. I want to do an interview. And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So we go out there, and I get ready to interview, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by 5 FBI agents, 2 from the Department of Justice, 1 from HUD, and 1 from Department of Commerce.
Wow.
And I says, whoa, are they going to arrest me, Homeland Security or something because of what I had to say about the government?
Well, of course you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
If you're not a slave, you're a terrorist.
So I didn't know what to expect. But then here's what they did. They says, Mr. Johnson, what can we do to help you?
Wow.
Started handing me all their business cards.
Yeah.
They says, send us all of your information.
Wow.
And see what we can do for you. So I did. I had their emails. I had all their contacts, Sacramento, Washington, D.C., and everything else. I sent them all my documentation of all of my recorded documents and my whole timeline of what happened. Never heard a word from them.
Well, yeah, of course.
Never, ever.
Because their higher ups said
they buried it.
Yeah, they buried it. Okay. Well, now things are changing because people are being more educated now and starting to realize that not only did they get scammed, but the courts have been scammed.
Well, those FBI agents are also subject to the scam as well. I mean, you're not
systemic fraud.
It's like if you don't stand up for it, I mean, you're going to be subject to it.
That's the irony of the whole situation.
And now the judges that are being, voting in or ruling in favor of the banks, they're
victims of this mortgage fraud as well.
So hey, judges, stop being so ignorant to the system.
Yeah.
Okay. Operate within the Constitution. It's unbelievable. Constitution is supposed
Gene,
to be
in our last
simple.
3 minutes, can you give some people out there, our audience, some because everybody can't go to Gene for help. Okay, Gene is a busy man, but can you give our audience some things that they can do on their own in their own foreclosure crisis cases?
Yeah, some solutions here in 2 minutes.
The number one thing is that you need to dig out your own mortgage deed of trust. You should have that. Now, your other documents that you might not have, but you can go down to the county recorder's office and ask to get a copy of them.
Yeah.
And then sit down and analyze them. Look at the make sure all the
everything
T's
matches up.
T's are crossed, I's are dotted, the dates are correct, everything, and looking for MERS and looking at the lender that it says on your deed of trust, because that lender is probably out of business now. Okay, so and look at and find. I'm sure you know who you're sending your money to, whether or not they're the real servicer. Even you have no way of knowing for sure.
Yeah,
somebody they could.
You're just paying them the money. You don't know.
Right, and a lot of people are telling me that they're getting notices from say, well, we're your new servicer. Send the money to us.
Yeah.
So they do because
they do. And they don't know if the money's going to pay off their loan. They have no idea where the money's going. There's no paper trail for them. They can be made up on the other side.
Without a doubt.
Right.
Well, folks, that's some really important stuff, and it's gonna become a huge, even a bigger issue as time goes on, because the system's getting so much more corrupt, and they're just gonna try to just take your stuff.
The ones enforcing this are victims of it as well. That's the irony of all.
There we go.
The banks are sitting up there laughing at all the please, government workers, wake up.
Yeah, because you're going to lose your homes as well, and then working for the government won't be such a great job. See, you're all comfortable. You think you're going to get your pensions. The government's bankrupt. All your pensions are bankrupt. They can't pay it. They're in $200 trillion worth of, that they are supposed to that they have to pay, but they can't. They don't have the money.
Unfunded
liabilities. And et cetera, et cetera. But, Gene, we thank you so much for the information that you've brought here today, and also at the CMAC the other day.
We're going to stay on the story, too. This is a big, big story.
Yeah, and just continue to fight, continue to battle these lawyers, these attorneys for the bank, and these judges. And you know what? Go and tell them you're a victim of it, too. So,
That's right.
Hey,
either you're criminally insane or start ruling in favor of the homeowner.
Exactly, absolutely. Folks, we'll see you in the second hour. Thanks, Gene. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Gene.
This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno. Folks,
we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Chaney. We got Woody in the studio.
Hey,
we're going into the second hour. If you were listening on the first hour, we had Gene Johnson on talking about mortgage fraud and what he went through, and what is actually going on with that in Fresno. Fresno is one of the
epicenter,
one of the epicenters of mortgage fraud. So if you're looking to buy a home, Woody, you need to be aware of what's going on, and don't be duped. Don't be gamed into paying a servicer that you don't even know if they have the bank note. You don't even know who you're paying if you don't have the documentation.
Don't fall for the okie doke.
There you go. And so if you don't know who you're paying, you should not be paying.
They're going to tell you a bunch of banker language that you don't understand and try to make you feel stupid.
AKA small talk.
AKA small talk.
Yep.
AKA banker fraud talk. Don't buy the scam they're selling. Do your research, please.
Yeah, so when you're making a purchase that big, you need to make sure that when you sign, and that's a problem. A lot of people just aren't. They just aren't that smart. And so when you're
they're not financially
financially illiterate when it comes to that language. And hey, I'll be honest,
by
I am
design,
too.
And it's by design.
Yeah, it's supposed to be hard to understand.
So don't feel bad about it because it's done on purpose.
Yeah, so that's what we are here for. We're trying to point that out, and the Constitution is pretty simple. And just like the 10 Commandments, things like that, those are real simple things that so the average Joe can abide by those, and they can also hold others to that standard.
Well, Stuart, you remember back in 2012 when Ron Paul was running for president, he got booed in Florida for simply saying that he wants everybody to live by the golden rule.
Yeah, do to others what you would have them do to you. That is the golden rule. And we have no morals in the society anymore. They're crumbling. So, of course, no one cares. People are willing to sell their soul for $50 at this point, or $1,000. And so that's what we're dealing with in today's society. So all these lawyers and attorneys, and they write these contracts, judges, they write these contracts for when you're getting a bank loan. I mean, they make it so difficult. And then when you actually buy a home or take a loan, there's so many pages. I mean, literally, no one reads through it. You should. And if you're not prepared,
read everything that you sign in this life, or you're a damn fool.
Absolutely. So if you're not ready to read that 50-page or 100-page, I don't know what it is, but it's a lot of paperwork. If you're not willing to read it, you shouldn't be buying it. And you know what? That's just the way it is. And you know what? Maybe you don't own a home. And I'm sorry. If you don't know who you're taking the loan from, or you can't have a paper trail to where you're supposed to be paying the money to every month, if you can't document that and actually tell me and explain to a normal person, hey, this is, I'm paying for my house. This is who the lender is. This is who I'm paying off every month. And I get notification that documentation that they've received my payment, that I'm paying it towards a loan. If you can't produce that and you have no idea what's going on, then there's a problem, and you shouldn't be buying a home. And honestly, I'm sorry if you have 5 kids. Live in an apartment.
Stuart, it is systemic fraud, the language, the semantical games that these lawyers and bankers play. You're not a homeowner. Check it out. It's not an asset to you until you pay it off. It's a liability. You're a debt note holder. So get your terminology straight, okay? Because that's reality. I'm sorry to break your heart, but the bankers and the lawyers know this, and they're laughing at you, folks. They're laughing at you.
Yeah, and and the thing is, that's why we try to harp on the Federal Reserve so much, and just the economy in general, because guess what? You don't have a job, you can't pay your loan off, and you've already taken a loan that you can't afford. You lose your job, you don't save any money first off, and then you lose your job. You can't pay your house payment, and you lose your house. I mean, they're just preying on people. They're setting people up to fail, allowing them
credit default swaps, betting that you will fail.
Yeah, I mean, how terrible is that? They're just gaming you into taking I can own a home. Well, wouldn't you rather save money until you can actually buy something to actually own something and not be a debt slave?
You actually own a debt note is what you own.
That's exactly what you own. And then you have to file for bankruptcy and all that stuff. And you lose your car, you lose all these other things, you lose your business. It's terrible. So what you should do is just save money. And you know what? Maybe buying a house is not in the cards for 15 years or 20 years. Maybe you just have to be smart with your money, invest, go to school so that you can get paid more, learn a viable skill that people want, that you can make more money so that you can just buy a house cash. And you know what? Maybe it's not ever going to be in the cards. I'll be honest. I don't want to take a loan for anything. I'll be honest, especially with the crooks running things, the criminals, scam artists that are running things. I mean, you take a loan and then they just sell your loan to someone that is not even allowed. It's all secretive. You can't MERS. You can't know who owns the deed to the bank, to your house. It's unbelievable. So why would I ever want to be involved in that kind of a scam or be gamed like that?
It's better off to be alone.
Well, it's institutionalized fraud at this point. We have all the documents to prove it. Stuart, let's get off that and get into how this federal government is not your government, people. I'm sorry to tell you, but they don't work for us anymore. They don't even work for creation. They are serving pure evil and the interest of the global one world government, New World Order cabal. This is an article out of the Washington Examiner. It reads like this. Feds won't ban pesticides said to kill honeybees despite 800 studies. Over 100 scientists worldwide have cited 800 studies demanding that the Obama administration follow Europe's lead and put a moratorium on the pesticide blamed for honeybee die-offs. And so the federal government, the EPA, will not do this. Ninocides. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but that's the chemical. And they will not do what's right by the people, even by what is right by creation. So therefore, they're serving Satan.
Yeah, wasn't it Albert Einstein that said, if all the bees die on the planet, then we cease to exist, and they can't pollinate the rest of.
Well, your federal government, the EPA specifically wants that to happen because they won't enforce the ban on it as Europe has already done.
Yeah, of course, because the EPA.
It's disgusting. These people are just disgusting, criminal, pig pieces of garbage, Stuart. I don't even. Man, it makes me so angry.
Yeah, and it's called the Environmental Protection Agency, and all they do is destroy. They destroy the free market, the free market's ability to actually create a healthy planet. But then the thing is, they won't ban something that's clearly damaging.
Europe's already banned it.
Yeah, and it's the same with GMO, and I know that free market could probably solve most of this, but we don't have a free market. We just live in an authoritarian police state, basically. So the EPA is God. They're probably genetically engineering a bee.
Are these
so that
even people? I mean, these are just pieces of garbage, Stuart.
Yeah.
Man, it makes me so mad. Sorry, but man.
Yeah, they're probably geoengineering. They're
probably geoengineered people. I mean, they don't act like people. They act like freaking robot aliens.
Absolutely. And yeah, they're guaranteed they're making. I mean, Monsanto is making.
How much money can you make? Does it even matter if you kill the planet? Will it even matter? It won't matter because you'll be on a dead planet.
Yeah, exactly, and you will die. I mean, and Monsanto's engineering seeds to resist aluminum, right? Aluminum-resistant seeds. So we know they're drought-resistant seeds. So we know that they're, geoengineering us, but the EPA doesn't care about that. So the EPA is just a bureaucracy to control the narrative of what we're supposed to be caring about. When it's convenient,
and
we need to pay carbon tax.
We're supposed to respect them. Oh, they're the big federal government, biggest building in Fresno. They're not serving our interests. How can we respect somebody that's abusing us? I mean, I am not a insane person suffering from Stockholm syndrome, so I'm not going to worship my captor, my master. Okay, that's not America.
No, yeah, and the EPA they'll only push a narrative that might be helpful as long as they will not. I mean, they'll push carbon tax all day, but they won't discuss nuclear radiation.
They won't ban what's killing the honeybees.
Exactly.
In over 100 studies.
Yeah. And so they won't discuss Fukushima. They won't encourage people to get iodine that they need in their system to
They're working
combat free
against
radicals.
our best interests. It's obvious.
And we're paying for it. Paying for our own slavery. Paying for our destruction.
Paying for our own demise.
So, and remember the movie The Happening? Yeah, the honeybees, they stopped. They were dying everywhere, and then bad things start to happen. I'm not saying that that's accurate. But look, if all the bees die on this earth, that's going to be bad, especially in America. I mean, we're already so corrupt. And then if you just add in, honeybees dying and we can't grow food, that's going to be big problems for us. And we're just going to
They're serving Satan at this point. There's no other explanation, Stuart.
Absolutely.
Moving on here to, guess what happened this last week? Our national debt, the one that's public that everybody talks about, went ahead and jumped up to over $18 trillion. And it's up 70% under the Barack Obama, or shall I say, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro administration. And so we could thank these collectivists with their socialist utopia for collapsing America and putting this debt on the back of the American taxpayer. It's disgusting, Stuart.
Yeah, and Barack Obama. Remember, you're supposed to pay down the debt. Yeah, it's Barack Obama.
I thought Nobel it was Barry Soetoro.
It's Barack Obama.
Okay.
Obama, Nobel Peace Prize winner. Yeah, he's a complete fraud, puppet of the New World Order. And yeah, there was an article on Drudge. We took in record level of revenues, tax revenues, and we still had to take out new debt. The federal government did. The Treasury had to take out new debt to pay for the old debt. And so we overspend, and we can't pay off our current debt, and we continue to overspend. Sure. And we take in record level of revenues.
Sure,
Unbelievable.
Apple has more cash on their balance sheet than the U.S. Treasury Department. than our entire country has. I mean, excuse me. These guys need to be fired and put in prison already.
Yeah, I mean, when will we wake up to this and start really protesting it? When a loaf of bread's $25, $35 the next week, and then $55 the next week.
Stuart, one private company, Fortune 500 Apple, has higher cash on their balance sheet than our whole country at this point.
Yeah, and asking for transparency and accountability is just It's absolutely insane. They think, oh man, government can't be transparent and accountable, and we can't actually be. Oh, we're the government. We can't be expected to tell the truth and actually balance a budget. And remember, you don't pay your income tax, they'll come and arrest you. No due process.
Cloward and Piven plan, that's exactly what we're seeing being implemented on us. We'll continue to hammer that home.
Yep.
The national debt up over 70% in
record level of revenues from taxes.
Yep. And where does all that money go to to buy off their crony capitalist buddies and put people on welfare and oppress them? And I'm sure a bunch is stolen by the Pentagon as well.
Yeah, and then Obama has billions to give the UN, but we'll go over that later. Yeah, I mean, really, can we spend any money right now? Can we afford anything?
We can't.
Without printing money?
And this whole thing about, don't shut the government down. They need to be shut down at this point because
they're
bankrupt.
They're bankrupt. We can't afford them. And we don't need them operating. And what they do when they operate is they write laws that take away our freedoms, and they also implement policies that aren't even laws, that are unconstitutional, and they print more money. Yeah.
They
take
serve
more
this
loans from the Fed.
globalist New World Order cabal of bankers, biotech companies, and just all around Satan worshipers, the worst people on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuart, it is truly incredible. That story you were just talking about, Obama gives $3 billion to the UN. That's taxpayer money for climate change fund.
I wonder where that
run by communist and terrorist nations.
Yeah, the United Nations is an unelected world government bureaucracy. It's a model for the world government that they're trying to implement. So anything the UN does is bad. I'm sick of everyone saying, "Well, we run the UN. We're the only one. We're the biggest, superpower on the planet. We run the UN." No, the UN is put in place for when they take down America and
just
collapse
like the
America, buddies. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's real fun to go invade a bunch of countries. Yeah. No, they're destroying the only place on Earth that actually was a beacon of freedom. They've destroyed it. And so now we have no moral high ground. We're in a bunch of unconstitutional wars. We have no money. We're decadent. We're immoral. And now we're giving the money that's not even really worth anything. It's only worth something right now because our currency's barely floating above everyone else's before it's going to collapse. $3 billion? I mean, really, $3 billion to what? To fight climate change. We're going to give it to an unelected bureaucracy. Where's that money go?
The United Nations Green Climate Fund.
Oh, because it says green in front of it. It probably means that they really care about the environment.
It's run by officials from communist nations, Stuart. I mean,
yeah, and
from terrorist-sponsored nations, according to the State Department, and our biggest competitor in the oil market, Arab nations, and so. Here we see it again. We're funding our enemies for our own demise to tax us to breathe. I mean, wow. It's out of this world.
Yeah, and then they were talking about the UN in that article about how the UN has on one of their committees or someone on the UN board is a warlord from what country is it? I think it's Africa or so. Country from Africa I forgot. But they they're giving warlords that commit genocide positions in the UN. Democide, yeah. So that's the kind of, I mean, if you think the UN is good for people, they steal our money.
It was
Darfur. There we go. You ever remember that? You heard about that country. You've heard about that country a lot in the past.
Might as well have that guy be our president.
Might as well. It's the same deal. And so for anyone to support the UN at all is just really... you're moronic. You are.
Omar al-Bashir for 2016 president. That's the Darfur democide mass murderer.
Yeah, forget Hillary Clinton. She's not evil enough. And so we're it's just welfare for the UN. It's financial. It's foreign aid. It's a bailout. It's our money
to cut our own throat.
How does Congress allow them to do this? What do they allocate him money at the beginning of the year or something, and he just can spend it however he pleases?
Bribery money.
I don't know, but how does the president get off just sending $3 billion to fight climate change? Is that going into a bank account somewhere? And then how are we going to be able to track what they're doing with that? It's an unelected bureaucracy world government model. Who's accountable? No one is accountable to the UN. They have no country. Okay, and that's what it's set up to be. That what are you going to prosecute the UN for corruption? Yeah, they don't have. There's no one to prosecute. It's just an unelected bureaucracy ruling over, and they're setting it up to make these treaties to take away our guns, which
take away our carbon, take away our energy.
Yeah, what global carbon tax is coming, people, and that's why they're trying it. They're testing it in all these states. California, especially, the carbon tax has already been implemented, but then they're gonna tax you by the mile. It's all Agenda 21, the UN's Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century. That's why we need to steer clear of the UN, okay? And the credibility of the UN does not matter at all. It's not in the interest of the United States or its citizens, as Ron Paul would say. So we don't care what the UN does. So stop acting like the UN is a big deal and matters. It doesn't. And
they have no authority.
They have
over
absolutely no authority. And the people that are running it want world government, and they want you to be slaves. And ask them, if you want to. Do you want to go to the store to get your store today? Well, you're gonna have to walk because it's a Tuesday, and we don't allow driving on Tuesdays.
Wow, Stuart, it's unbelievable. Moving on here.
That was an awkward silence.
Yeah,
it was for you to think about what we just said.
Yeah, and now you're on the list a little higher for talking bad about the UN because if you have a UN bumper sticker.
Oh, we're getting moved off the United States the list for the U.S. But we're getting moved to a bigger list, the UN's list.
Yeah, now
I guess we're threatening the UN now.
Yeah.
So we're on. I guess Radical Sam and his partner in crime just moving on up. We're even more
Radical
of a threat.
Sam and Chewy Stewie.
Yeah. Yep.
So remember last week, a couple weeks back, we interviewed John Irvin about the CIA, about how they did this weaponized anthropology against America and totally destroyed our culture. Well, some more things that the CIA have been doing, and through covert funding, is around the world. This is going on 67 years now. They continue to arm rebels all over the world. And the newest case is they're arming the Syrian rebels, and we're going ahead and fighting them.
Yeah, we're funding both sides. First, we arm the Syrian rebels. Then we are arming or helping fight Islamic State, supposedly ISIS, who's an enemy of the people that we were funding to fight. So we're just playing all sides because we're supposed to be against Syria, right? But when we're fighting ISIS, we're apparently on the same side as Syria, right? So it's it's undeclared. There's no clear enemy. There never will be. Obama just sent more troops to Afghanistan for secret missions. There's a bunch of a lot of things go on behind closed doors in secret, and the media even admits that there's secret orders from Obama. See, our president just operates, however he wants to, and that's how it's been, though. And so, but we're okay with that, I guess. So let's just send troops to other countries covertly, blow stuff up, kill people, or drone attack them. And Congress really can't do anything. They won't do anything. I mean, they could, but they won't. And so we need to stop funding both sides of conflict.
We're not in the right here, Stuart. I mean, you take it back to the Afghanistan Soviet war.
The Mujahideen.
Yep, the United States CIA funded the Mujahideen, led by Osama bin Laden.
Oh yeah, So they prey on our ignorance.
It is disgusting, Stuart. And then what happens after Soviet empire dies in Afghanistan, which is where empires go to die? United States warmongers wake up to that fact. What do? We turn around and say that Osama bin Laden is the biggest terrorist in the world after we funded him. And so now we got to get him, and he's the bad guy making videos where he gets younger and has a different freaking look every other year. And so he's was the pre-Shinobi characters, pre-ISIS.
Yeah.
And it's all the 9/11 pre-Shinobi, and he's all to blame for 9/11. The official mainstream story says.
Oh yeah, a guy in a cave.
Guy in a cave.
Yeah, and we've also funded
but
Saddam Hussein.
before that, they were all our allies, and we funded them.
Yeah, we funded them, and then we also funded Saddam Hussein against Iran, and then we turned on Saddam again. So we just love to fund these groups, and then you set them up to be the enemy for us to go into more war and just take over their whole area.
Keep the war on terror fake thing going.
Yeah,
and keep
perpetual state of war.
Perpetual
and
state
imbalance.
of war. Yep, and strategy of tension. and keep up these false flag terrorist attacks perpetrated on us by our own government.
I'm so sick of war and undeclared wars and wars for absolutely no purpose.
Perpetual
with
war.
with our borders open, it makes me not want to call myself an American because the public is that ignorant. It's like, oh no, we still need to fight Al Qaeda. Wait, no, now it's ISIS. Oh, now it's Syria. Believe me, they will fight anyone. It doesn't matter. Hey, well, you know what? How about let's just go to war with everyone? Let's just start bombing everyone. And I mean, is that what we're supposed to do, really? Is that being American, Sam? Just mindlessly going along with warmongering?
Well, all those people that are pro-war, they won't go fight the wars themselves, Stuart. That's the rub right there.
Yeah. And so if I were you, I would not be involved in our military.
If you're so pro-war, you go fight the war.
Exactly. Instead of sending the honorable men of society that actually believe that they're doing something good, we're sending them to go die for politicians, their gain.
And the American empire run by the one world government bankers.
Yep, exactly. And that's why they love war so much.
Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex taking over America. Apparently, we didn't take heed to that warning.
Yeah, and it just keeps destroying societies over and over. War, never-ending state of perpetual war. And, we've been literally for the last 70 years after World War II, we've been funding both sides of conflicts. It's very unconstitutional. If you send troops to another country to go shoot something, unless it's specifically under the Constitution, it's called marquee and reprisal. You can actually, if someone's attacked us and there's a group that we've decided that we need to go kill, like for instance, if we want to go get Al Qaeda, okay, well, there has to be a clear plan to go kill the specific people, and not just never-ending war on terror. You can't define it. That's why it's very
Toyota trucks.
Exactly. It's very, very broad and very general.
Spend $1 million on a bomb to blow up a tent.
And guess what? Marquee reprisal would have made sense to we go get Osama bin Laden, and guess what? Supposedly he's dead, even though we know that's a fraud and that was set up. But that would have made sense. Oh, we go get Osama. Once he's dead, we're out. We're done, and we don't do anything else. We don't invade Iraq. What? I mean, literally, Americans, and was it Eric Thompson was saying? Yeah, people in other countries just literally they don't see our logic. They think we're moronic because we got attacked supposedly by Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. But
terrorists out of
Saudi Arabia.
That's the mainstream
And then
story.
we invaded Iraq.
And Afghanistan.
Man. Yeah, so if North Korea attacks us,
then we should go
to war with China or
maybe Russia,
Taiwan. I mean, just some random. How about, you know what?
Morocco?
I don't know. Yeah. Australia. Why not?
Why not? It doesn't matter at this point.
It doesn't matter because there's weapons of mass destruction.
And
even though we own nukes and many other countries do, including Israel, they own nuclear weapons, but yet we have to give them hundreds of millions of dollars a year for no reason. Oh, because they're supposedly a democracy. How can you be a democracy or an actual free society when you're taking welfare from the actual what's left of the free market here in America? We pay for them to supposedly be a free country and a free market. Why can't they provide for themselves? They're just another welfare state. I mean, and that's communism. That's socialism. The welfare state is communism.
It's the American empire.
Stealing from one, it's unbelievable. It's just,
they're a client state of the American empire.
Yeah, you're right. They're a client state.
And there's a bunch of people out there.
And you demonize the Middle East.
Well, there's a bunch of people out there all over the internet that want to say all day it's the Zionist Jews and we need to hate Israel. Yeah. And that there are Zionist Jews out there who are bad people, right? Yep. But I mean, they want to spend all their time and effort, and it's all Israel. Excuse me, Israel's a client state of the United States.
Yeah, and they demonize the Middle East and make the Middle East the enemy, and then say, "Oh, we have to support Israel no matter what because it's the only beacon of freedom." I'm sorry, stealing my money, giving it to Israel is not a beacon of freedom. It's not promoting a free market. And constitutional government. It's promoting stealing from me, giving it to Israel to then take away more of my rights because you're warmongering and just the welfare state in general will create wars and communism. It'll always create a hellhole. And that's what we are becoming.
They're all working together, Stuart. All these intelligence agencies, the Mossad, everyone say it's all Mossad. Well, they're working with the CIA, all our intelligence agencies, with England. The Anglo-American establishment are all working together, and you can't just point at one of them. It's all different legs on this spider octopus that's got its trapped. And how do they fund all this, Stuart? Through the fiat debt-based monetary system, the Federal Reserve. Because if we had sound money in this country, we couldn't be off in 134 undeclared wars and funding Israel and funding every other country out there with foreign aid. We couldn't do it because we'd have to be held to account for the reserves of gold or whatever other commodity you want to peg the currency to. But with this debt-based fiat system, they can create, as we see, $18 trillion in debt now, and it's just going to continue to grow until we get reform of our monetary system.
Think about it. We have to take out new debt, which means print more money to pay for our old debt while taking in record amount of revenues. So the people that are actually producing money for the government through taxes, through actually creating and producing something in the free market, you're killing them. They are the people that are feeding the government.
The true engine of growth.
Yeah, and so you're destroying them while overspending, and you're already broke. So this can't end well. And I mean,
it won't end well.
And it's just, I just can't. People,
establishment apologists need to get a big reality check because you're not part of the club.
Yeah, and Barack Obama literally just said, I changed the law. And he said out of his own mouth, I changed the law.
Oh, but
I changed the law by myself.
His press secretary said he didn't mean it, so it must be okay.
Well, of course, because he's trendy, and I didn't see what he looked like, but I can hear by his voice that he's trendy,
Well,
and
he's
everything's
a good-looking white man.
Yeah, with glasses? Does he have glasses?
No, he doesn't have glasses.
Oh, well, he's got to get some trendy glasses, and then people will really be, I'm really non-threatening. The president doesn't have a secret kill list. Even though he does, but I mean he doesn't. He loves you. And
they lie out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah, and
they deserve no respect. They deserve to be denounced.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I mean he does a bracket for the the college basketball tournament, the NCAA March Madness.
He wants to drink beer with the Republicans.
Exactly. I mean he's just a good guy, and we just gotta trust him because
he needs to be impeached, brought up on charges, and arrested for war crimes.
Yeah, and I mean if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor, and it's like. I know you can't, but I mean you can because we create reality and we change reality and we change history, but it's okay. We're not liars. But believe what I say, even though everything I say turns out to be wrong.
Apologizing for all the lies are just as culpable at this point as the liars themselves.
Don't get mad, Radical Sam. That's terrorist and just extremist. And folks, we got to go to a break. Here's a word from our sponsors.
Supporting local businesses? Do you want to help them succeed? So do we. The Thrifty Nickel Want Ads is a family-owned business that has been a big part of the local community for over 30 years. Our goal is not only to produce a paper that is not only successful, but enduring. We are looking for experienced outside sales representatives to help grow and expand the Central Valley's favorite classified paper while creating successful marketing campaigns that will increase business for their clients. If you care about better working relationships with local businesses, then we want to hear from you. 50% commission of every new contract acquired. If interested, contact Art at thriftynickelwantads.com or call 559-472-7182.
Listen up, Fresno. Are you tired of boring local news coverage? Then log on to FresnoForward.com, the Central Valley's #1 source for independent, local, and alternative news and views. FresnoForward.com is updated daily, bringing you stories on government corruption, local activism, Fresno culture, and so much more. Did I mention FresnoForward.com has no ads or signups required? FresnoForward.com. You'll love it.
We all know that a natural disaster, EMP attack, and martial law are a real possibility. Prepare before the crisis because FEMA can't and won't keep you safe. Tops Military Supply. Veterans serving veterans, their families, and the community. Visit us at 605 West Shaw, Suite A, Clovis, California, or call us at 559-298-6001.
Folks, we're back. This is We Are Change Fresno on 1680 AM. I'm your host, Stuart Webb, along with my co-host, Sam Chaney. And our producer, Woody. Hey. This is the fourth quarter of our show. It's the fourth quarter.
Crunch time.
And so it's going to get crazy. We're going to go over some news, and we're going to be non-threatening. No, just kidding. We're going to be real threatening to liars. We're going to make you feel uncomfortable, and people that are going with the system, you need to get out of your comfort zone and realize that, look, it's just like what we talked about in the first hour. Gene Johnson was screwed over completely, unlawfully, And the system just went along with it, even though he actually had all the proof to prove that he owned his house, et cetera, et cetera. But you know what? We're part of the establishment. We're just going to go along to get along because I'm comfortable with my salary. And, I go home and watch that show Homeland and network television shows, and I feel comfortable
I'm
at
an
home.
InfraGard.
Yeah. And
Department of Homeland
I'm-
Security
yeah.
recruited me, and I'm a secret spy now.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, like Sam said, if it's radical to be informed and concerned about your freedoms. It's real radical. And so, so we're just trying to get you out of your comfort zone. So we're going to continue to go over some news this last part of the show. And we appreciate our sponsors. We appreciate our listeners. And we're just going to keep hammering it because these people got to be dealt with. These issues got to be dealt with. And, hey, we've been doing this 6 months now. And, Sam's been doing it for years. I've been doing it for a couple years. He's been doing it a lot longer than me. But we're just trying to get you out of your comfort zone so that you go do something. Start caring about something. I mean, who has time to watch television? No one should be bored. Write a book. Write a novel about your life. I don't know. Do something. Exercise your brain. Read books. Get some exercise. There's so much to do. I don't have time to do it. And we also, us hardworking, able-bodied producers have to, go to work every day to pay for the welfare state. So if you see that that's not going to end well, why don't you start battling it, okay? I know it's going to be hard. I know it's hard. It is hard. Life's not supposed to be easy, okay? If it's easy right now for you, you're either not working hard at all or you've just given up, I guess. But life's not supposed to be easy. It's a test so that you grow. Okay, so get out of your comfort zone. I'm sorry I'm ranting, but geez, get out of your comfort zone.
Stuart, all the people working in government, you're victims of the system too. You need to wake up to that fact. You're not part of this New World Order, one world government club. They're going to throw you under the bus first and foremost. But back to what I was saying earlier about the CIA infiltrating every aspect of American life and you establishment media hacks out there that want to apologize for this stuff and rationalize it. Here's a story from Carl Bernstein in 1977 Rolling Stone entitled The CIA and the Media. And he goes on to say that that 400 American journalists who in the past 25 years have secretly carried out assignments for the Central Intelligence Agency, and that's according to documents on file at CIA headquarters. And so check it out. Being a secret spy for the CIA or whoever else, InfraGard, Homeland Security, that is not serving American interests. Okay, you are serving the globalist one world government cabal. That's whose interests you're serving. Do some research. Wake up.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Anderson Cooper, CIA agent. I mean, look, these people openly they went to this. They worked for the CIA, and then they're in our media. Why? That concerns me.
Secret spies telling us the news.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're following an agenda.
Exactly, and they're no matter what it is,
our whole society.
Yeah, exactly. And
we've been socially engineered, and we're sick of it.
Yeah, exactly. We've been just conditioned.
We know what time it is.
Yeah.
FBI, we know what time it is, and you should care about your family and yourself too, and shake off the chains of this social engineering from the technocratic elite, because you're not in their club. They're laughing at you.
Yeah, why would all these major networks, and they all have admittedly, employed and worked with the CIA employees, and actually directly worked with the CIA, and that's just admitted. It's like, why would the media need to be involved with the CIA at all? At all?
Because they need to push a one world government agenda, and the only way to get there is to collapse America.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. And the CIA is, I'm sorry,
they don't work for us. The federal government does not work for the American people's best interest.
Yeah. How can we trust a clandestine institution?
Secret spy organization.
Yeah, I mean, the CIA doesn't work for the American people. Are people really that ignorant? Oh, the CIA. I've heard things like the CIA was the greatest thing to ever happen to America. Yeah, maybe when we had morals and we actually cared and we weren't decadent, but we're all of us are just blithering idiots now, and we don't know what the First Amendment is. We don't know the capital of the United States, and we don't know who the vice president is. We don't know what inflation is. We are stupid. Okay, so
by design.
So do you really think a secret spy agency that ships drugs in from other countries to make money so that it's off the books.
Iran Contra.
Yeah, so that it's completely clandestine, and Congress doesn't know about it. I'm sure people in Congress do know about it, but they do things completely out of. They have no authority to do it. Okay, and then we want to call them an asset to the United States interest, the Constitution. I mean, really? It's like, yeah, okay, fine. If you enjoy a secret spy society, it'd be one thing if we were spying on enemies, actual enemies outside of the country.
No, they're undermining America. Our culture has been engineered by these high-up technocrats running through the CIA. It's disgusting. They're collapsing America in front of our eyes, and they've been doing it for a long, long time. Wake up to this illusion.
Yeah, and then people will say, well, we might get bombed or we might be attacked. Look, that's what the Second Amendment's for. No one's going to come and attack my home, and I have no enemies. So there's no reason for other countries to just try to invade America. But now they have a lot of reasons for the last, couple decades, because we've been blowing people up, putting sanctions on sovereign nations for no reason, attacking, invading foreign nations. We have bases all over the place. We're an empire. Yes, of course people don't like us. So if we didn't do that, no one would consider attacking us. Still, we haven't been invaded. People aren't willing to come into this country because we have the Second Amendment. But then our own government is trying to undermine our own rights while telling us there's a threat. It's for your own safety, and also that there's threats. Give us all the power. It's all a bunch of bull. And so for you to put your trust in clandestine, we need the CIA. We need transparent government.
We need to be socially engineered.
Bush, even though he signed national security letters to not, when FBI agents were trying to tell him that, hey, there's a terror attack that's going to happen. Oh, well, let's just gag order those FBI agents, by the way.
He said no one could have ever seen it coming.
Oh, yeah, we never saw this coming, even though we knew who the enemy was like an hour after publicly, and then we just attack another country that has nothing to do with it. Unbelievable. It's
1984.
And you're not, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists.
Very Orwellian.
So look, anyone who supports the CIA just supports clandestine operations, which could be child trafficking, drug trafficking, sex slavery, just snuff films, the worst crimes. And so how are we supposed, look, if the CIA, if we fund it, well, they kind of fund themselves because they do illegal operations that pay for it, and then blame, the Second Amendment, or blame, our war on drugs.
Blame the First Amendment.
Or just blame the American people because we have the Bill of Rights. That's where all problems
when they've engineered all this.
Exactly. Our
they
problems.
ship in the drugs, they make it illegal, and then arrest you for it. It's your fault.
Yeah.
Very, very Orwellian.
That's
Stuart, here, another thing that the CIA's done to us, and this is an article out of the Independent, out of UK, mainstream newspaper over there. Modern art was CIA weapon.
Yep. And so they used that against to say that they were having America was having a cultural revolution, and we're so free and free thinking, and we have so much culture, and we used it so that we could basically make Russia out to be an authoritarian
Russia's
regime.
all bad, and it's hip and trendy when Jackson Pollock just splashes paint on a canvas, and that's supposed to be great art.
Yeah.
Promoted to us by the CIA.
Yeah, exactly. Nice, Woody. Instead of just allowing people to use the free market, and maybe people would buy that stuff, and maybe that cultural revolution would have happened. But the fact that the CIA actually, and our own government actually, tried to literally try to push an agenda.
It's mind control.
It shows you that the powers that be want to be able to manipulate your mind into thinking a certain way, okay? So the free market, that might have came about. Honestly, that cultural revolution probably would have come about, but not to the extent. Yeah, exactly. But instead, and like we had Jan Irvin on talking about how, you just change the name a bunch of different times of LSD, and it becomes a psychedelic, and they push that it's really cool, and if you do it in a cool, really relaxed, all free love setting, it's spiritual, and it's ethogen, it's ethogenic, and it's of God, and so they can push that when really it was a drug for schizophrenics, So really, they can push anything they want on us, and they will.
Everything is weaponized against us now in this culture. You need to realize that the music, the art, the drugs, all of it is weaponized against us to make you fall to kill you and your family.
Yeah, and do you think it's easy to convince Sam and I or Woody of something? No, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because we care and we're informed and we're vigilant. So if you're not, and probably none of our listeners are more informed and more vigilant than most, but honestly, I mean, if you're not thinking about these things, think about how easy it is for you to be manipulated. I mean, really. Does anybody really believe that Osama bin Laden actually was the perpetrator behind 9/11 and that he actually died when our president Obama, lowest approval ratings of his whole term, and then the next day comes out and says, "Oh, we've made America safer by killing Osama bin Laden." I mean, does anybody really believe that?
It seems a bit contrived.
And then,
Stuart.
but where's the body? Oh yeah, that they had to dump him immediately because it was a body double, and we can't actually let the American people, actually see the body because it's not real. It was all fake. But guess what? We believed it. And there's this mainstream media is still pushing that narrative.
Stuart, some of these CIA modern artists who are a bunch of crap, in my opinion, but you're welcome to your own opinion about modern art, are Jackson Pollock, Robert Motherwell, Willem de Kooning, and Mark Rothko. And so those are your great modern artist CIA agents.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you rather let the free market operate? And hey, if an artist comes up with great art and someone wants to buy it in the free market, why don't you let that happen? Let the chips fall where they may and let the free market operate. If those guys actually really had talent and there was a market for it and people wanted that.
Have you seen Jackson Pollock art, Stuart?
I have not.
It splatters of paint on a canvas. That's what it is. The guy's taking a paintbrush and just splattering it on the canvas. That's it.
Wow. And my grandpa was an actual artist.
There are no Michelangelos.
Yeah, and my grandpa's an artist.
There are no Picassos.
My grandpa is an artist, and he taught art for years and years and years. And I have paintings. I have his paintings all over my house, and it's just beautiful work. And he didn't just splash some paint on.
That's literally what it is. Just splash paint on a canvas. It's undermining artistic creativity, undermining our culture. And economy, and that is the plan. And they use the excuse of, we needed to fight like this against Russia in the Cold War.
Yeah, and the art was so great that they needed the CIA to back it and our own government to fund it.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it was just really great art. It was so good that it had to be bailed out because it was so terrible. It had to be pushed on and propaganda. There was literally a propaganda machine. What is it? The propaganda inventory, they said. The CIA had literally, here we go, propaganda assets inventory, and they could the CIA influenced over 800, news media outlets when they were pushing this. So if it was so great, they wouldn't have had to do that. It would have just came about through the free market.
So we've been totally social engineered by high up technocrat, insane scientists that are mind controlling us. So wake up to that fact. But back here on the ground, Stuart, drones kill 28 unknowns for every intended target. That's morally wrong. I mean, how can you not say that is immoral? And that's out of Newsweek, Pakistan.
Well, it's all for national security. It's the national security. If we didn't kill those innocent children
28
overseas,
to 1, Stuart.
Yeah, well, Sam, but you're being radical because we can kill people only when the government says. But to own a gun, that's radical. To protect you and your family and to defend your home, that's radical. But we can go kill people overseas, and you don't hear liberals talking about that. You don't really. I mean, honestly, you hear some of them,
not the
establishment liberals. Yeah. So where's Obama on that? Oh, he's the one ordering the kills. Oh yeah, I thought he was supposed to be a big lib, anti-war. Well, he has a secret kill list. And it's people will say, well, it's collateral damage. Well, hey, how would you feel if drone attacks happened here? And they probably will. I mean, they will.
It's coming.
But Sam and I also went to Fresno State and asked people when they saw the model of the drone and with all the signatures of the people that have been killed by drones. Most people were totally okay with our own government flying drones, surveilling skies, and killing people autonomously.
Totally immoral society.
Yeah.
Stuart, over the last 12 years, 874 people, including 142 children, have been killed by these drones.
Yeah, and it's all for the public safety and national security. Yeah, I mean, seriously, and people say, well, that's not that many. We're in a time of war. Actually, no, we haven't declared war, folks. Oh, it just makes me sick. We haven't declared war. Where's the declaration of war? Where's the enemy? That's constitutional. If we actually declare a war against a clear enemy so we can clearly exit when the job's done. Oh, but it's an ongoing war, and that just takes the moral high ground right out of, our narrative. And so we're killing innocent people. But since and they're saying in this report that what was it, the reprieve, the international accountability for the or whatever, this group, this international
human rights group, Reprieve,
the human rights group says that supposedly all these high level targets, they've tried to kill them a bunch of times and they haven't actually killed them, but yet a bunch of other people died. Collateral damage. So they're and then they talk about how drones, it's really effective and it will only kill. It'll be minimal damage. It'll only kill the people that they're supposed to target. Well, they're not even killing the people that they're targeting, but they are killing innocent people in those attacks. And so whenever you hear about a drone attack of a high level, it's a high level target was killed by a drone, a U.S. drone. Well, who knows? They might have tried that 4 or 5 times before they actually got the guy. And by the way, they haven't been tried. And I know you'll say, well, the Constitution doesn't apply there. Well, the Constitution is supposed to apply when we're actually declaring war. All these wars that are not actually declared, they're unconstitutional, so we have no moral high ground. It doesn't matter if they could be possibly a potential threat. We have no moral high ground. They haven't attacked us.
It's Orwellian. Yeah. Anybody could be anything.
We're bankrupt. We can't pay for it.
There's some good news here. We saw record gun sales over this last Black Friday.
Well, hey, at least
American people are arming themselves because they know that our government doesn't serve our interests. The FEMA can't and won't keep you safe, just like our commercial says.
So I think they want you to go shop for mindless goodies, and people are buying guns. And you know what? I love it. I love that there was a background check every 3 seconds on Black Friday. And you know what they're telling? That's a message to the government. Oh, you want to push Black Friday so that mobs of people will fight over a jacket for 50% off? Well, we're just going to go buy a bunch of guns on Black Friday. We'll stake out and buy some guns to protect our homes, to protect the freedoms. And hey, I am okay with you buying guns, skipping Thanksgiving and buying guns if it's solely for the purpose of protecting your family.
That's right.
And right, Woody?
Yep.
Am I right?
Self-defense.
I am only cool with you going and skipping Thanksgiving for that if it's for your family.
Yep.
But buying an Xbox for 50% off or whatever and battling someone to be a zombie, that's not okay with me. But hey, that's very good news that over 170,000 guns were sold.
And we did see a ruling here last week in Fresno, where the federal court ruled that the California 10-day waiting period extension was unconstitutional.
Yeah, and the Justice Department is lagging, even though they ruled that in August, that was unconstitutional. And then the Justice Department says now that they're not granting them a delay for them for people to be able to just buy it same day. Now Kamala Harris, the Attorney General, I believe, of the state, is now complaining that they need 12 months. No, she's actually she's a thug criminal scumbag that doesn't like the Second Amendment.
Complicit in mortgage fraud.
Yeah. And so for her, the court said, sorry, you don't actually get to decide. You're not the judicial branch.
She is authoritarian, no?
Yeah, well, yeah. And
she is a woman of color.
I know, and then you can't criticize her.
Bow to her.
Yeah, we can't criticize her. Folks, if you're of color, and I hate saying that because it's so stupid, we're supposed to be colorblind in this society.
No, but they're the ones playing the race card.
I know, and if you're black or if you're someone who's non-white, even though I don't like to say that, you should be buying guns. I mean, look at the
We're
police
all
states.
Americans, but these thug clowns are playing the race card to divide us.
Yeah. And I always honestly
balkanization, look it up.
And I'll tell you what, when it's finally legal, even though it's unconstitutional, when it's finally legal to buy same day here in California, that will be a great day for Californians, and I'm probably going to go buy a gun on that day just because I can't
to celebrate.
Just celebrate in your face that yes, I can go get a background check immediately, and I can buy a product the same day in store. There's no reason why I can't buy. It says in my Second Amendment, it specifically says, it doesn't say you have the right to buy an Xbox even in the Constitution or a cell phone. It says, no, you could buy guns. Sorry, you can have a gun.
That's not part of the one world government agenda, Stuart.
There we go. Yep.
You know what is part of their agenda is is this slave prison industrial complex system. The United States, which is supposed to be a free country, has a prison system not only for mass incarceration, but we have 5% of the world's population in this country, but yet we have 25% of the world's prison population. That doesn't scream freedom to me, Stuart.
Yeah, and that's what people need to understand about the war on drugs.
Oh, lock them up,
Yeah.
throw away the key.
50% of those are nonviolent drug offenders. Yeah. And so when you need to think twice before you allow Big Pharma to...
Who's running the drugs? The CIA.
Yeah, oh, I know. Yeah. So we got Big Pharma legally dealing, meth, crack to kids. That's literally what Adderall
Pharmaceutical
is.
speed.
Yeah, exactly.
For ADHD.
And I know because I've done it. I'm sorry, people. I know from experience.
You're a victim of the system too.
Yeah, I've done these drugs
They
before.
owe
I
you
understand.
reparations.
Yeah. And so for people to just think about this. Imagine if they made coffee illegal tomorrow. How would you feel about it?
I'd say start throwing people in prison.
Oh yeah, I agree. Now, actually, maybe I'll start a petition. You know what? How
state is
crazy!
God.
How crazy would it be if I started getting a petition to actually ban coffee and to make it illegal, or to ban alcohol, or to ban any substance that's currently legal, and just say let's ban cigarettes? And that's what they're trying to do. They're actually trying to ban cigarettes.
All the status establishment hacks would cheer on your prison sentence.
Yes, exactly. They literally could throw you in jail for putting something into your body, and so really that means that that's how conditioned we are, and that's how much of slaves we are, because they literally. If you put something in your body, they can throw you in jail. And say, I mean, think about it. You get caught with a marijuana cigarette in Louisiana, you're going to jail. I mean, you're going to jail for years, okay? And so it's unconstitutional. It literally is, but the public's so ignorant that they won't stand in front of a jury. See, you demand your due process. You demand a jury. And believe me, if you're well-spoken, they're going to have to literally... literally, they're going to have to either engage in criminal activity by keeping you locked up and not giving you your due process, or they're going to have to grant you your day in court with the jury, and the jury's going to have to convict you of a crime for smoking some dope or whatever, okay? And then once they do that, then you realize that America is gone, okay, when a jury convicts you for putting something into your body. Because that will never happen, though, okay? They won't allow that, okay? They won't allow it.
It could be. They could get some kept jurors, some people that are not up.
I'll tell you what. If I ever get on a jury, folks, and hopefully the government hears this, I might just rule in favor. I might just go against everyone just because I can. That's the right of a juror.
If you bring your fully informed juror handbook with you,
yeah, there you go. You'll know what your rights are.
Well, they won't let you on that jury.
They won't let you on the jury. They want dumb, ignorant slaves
that worship the state.
And then so the judge and the lawyers can say, after reviewing this, you really need to vote this way. You really need to analyze.
Because they're legal professional technical experts that don't know jack about mortgage fraud.
Exactly. And they will just convince you that you have to vote with your single vote on a jury to do a certain thing. They will manipulate
the state.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to. You can vote whatever way you want, and you don't even have to explain why. But the thing is, people will be intimidated, manipulated, and so we're just saying, don't be a dumb, ignorant slave.
So California tells court it can't release inmates, which was as it was ordered by a federal judge to release inmates because it would lose cheap prison labor.
Yep, and that's just massive corporations. See, we don't get a cut of that. Why can't my business get in on that cheap labor? Why? I mean, why can't I get on that $2 an hour wage?
You're not that corrupt.
I guess I don't get this. I'm not a special interest. I'm not a lobbyist. So I don't get special privileges. I mean, that's slave labor wages. People will say, well, they're criminals. Well, for smoking some pot, man, you're just so ignorant. And you know what? Once they make cigarettes illegal, coffee illegal, once they make actually saying anything bad about government extreme and illegal and a hate crime, well, you're just going to be wishing that you had spoken out. But since you're ignorant still, you're just going to continue to support the police state because you think that that's going to help your children. Well, your children are going to be slaves. You don't even know what inflation is. You don't even know how corrupt. Jeez, when did you? Let's let Satan take. If Satan puts people in prison for not doing anything wrong, should we just bow to Satan and say, well, I mean, I don't want him to throw me in prison, so I'm just going to worship Satan? Yeah, that's what you're doing. So stop serving the system.
Just have an African warlord.
Sorry,
be your
I'm
dictator.
extreme. Yeah, sorry, I'm extreme, but it really pisses me off.
Stuart,
Really.
they came out with a doctor out of Santa Rosa and a doctor out of New York City came out with a cure, the first cure for the Ebola infection, and it only costs $40.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
a press release I'm looking at right here. Look in the notes of this story. In the interest of time, we're going to get to the big enchilada, the Federal Reserve.
Oh, I don't know if we're gonna get through it, but
Oh, boy.
The greatest period.
Here it comes.
The
Switch
greatest
off.
period of economic growth in
Wait
United
for
States
it.
history was when there was no central bank.
And this is all cited on Zero Hedge, or not Zero Hedge, it's some other site. The United States never had a persistent ongoing problem with inflation until the Federal Reserve was created. In the century before the Federal Reserve was created, the average annual rate of inflation was about 0.5%. In the century since the Federal Reserve was created, the average annual rate of inflation has been about 3 to 5%, and it would be even higher than that if inflation numbers were not being so grossly manipulated.
Even using the official number, the value of the U.S. dollar has declined by more than 95% since the Federal Reserve was established nearly 100 years ago.
The secret November 1910 gathering at Jekyll Island, Georgia, during which the plan of the Federal Reserve was hatched, was attended by U.S. Senator Nelson Aldrich, Assistant Secretary of the Treasury Department, A.P. Andrews, and a whole host of representatives from the upper crust of the Wall Street banking establishment. Read Creature from Jekyll Island.
In 1913, Congress was promised that if the Federal Reserve Act was passed, it would eliminate the business cycle.
Yeah, and that's not true, right? The business
No.
cycle. The following comes directly from the Fed's official mission statement: to provide the nation with a safer, more flexible, and more stable monetary and financial system. Over the years, its role in banking and economy was expanded.
It was not an accident that a permanent income tax was also introduced the same year when the Federal Reserve System was established. The whole idea was to transfer wealth from the pockets to the federal government and from the federal government to the bankers.
Within 20 years of the creation of the Federal Reserve, the U.S. economy was plunged into the Great Depression, and then war.
If you cannot believe it, there have been, since 1950, 10 different economic depressions or recessions. The Federal Reserve created the dot-com bubble. The Federal Reserve created the housing bubble. And now it has created the largest bond bubble in this history's planet.
According to the official government report, the Federal Reserve made $16.1 trillion in secret loans to the big banks during the last financial crisis. The following is a list of loan recipients that was taken directly from page 131 of the report. Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Barclays PLC, Bear Stearns, Goldman Sachs, Royal Bank of Scotland, JP Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, UBS, Credit Suisse Bank, Lehman Brothers, Bank of Scotland, BNP Paribas, Wells Fargo, Dexia, Wachovia, Dresdner Bank, Society Generale, all other borrowers. It's all in the billions and trillions, folks.
Those are the enemies of free humanity.
Have a good night. Peace, love, and liberty.
This show is sponsored by We Are Change Fresno.